Anti-Zionism as antisemitism in practice. Though they constantly deny being anti-Semites, in their writings and speeches, anti-Zionists rarely draw distinctions between Zionists and Jews. To hide their anti-Semitism, enemies of the Jews nearly always use the word Zionist when they mean Jew. This substitution often has been ludicrous. As noted earlier, on October 21, 1973, the Soviet ambassador to the United Nations, Yakov Malik, declared, "The Zionists have come forward with the theory of the chosen people, an absurd ideology." This was a typical example of anti-Semitism masquerading as anti-Zionism. An attack on Jewish chosenness is not an attack on Zionism. Chosenness plays no role in Zionism. Rather, it is a basic doctrine of Judaism. Malik's attack was consistent with Soviet, Arab, and leftist opponents of the Jews, who disguised their attacks on Jews and Judaism as attacks on Zionism. In the USSR Museum of Religion and Atheism in Leningrad, St. Petersburg, an exhibit about Zionism and Israel designated the following as anti-Soviet Zionist material: Jewish prayer shawls, tefillin, phylacteries, and Passover Haggadahs, all religious items used by Jews for thousands of years. A similar and characteristic use of anti-Zionism to disguise anti-Semitism was made in the Black Panther, August 25, 1970, the newspaper of that late radical black organization. Writing about the trials of Panther leader Huey Newton and of the Chicago Eight, the paper concluded, "It was a Zionist judge, Judge Friedman, who sentenced Huey P. Newton to 15 years in jail. It was a Zionist judge, Judge Hoffman, who allowed the other Zionists to go free, but has kept Bobby Seale in jail. The other Zionists in the conspiracy aid trial were willing and did sacrifice Bobby Seale. Once again, we condemn Zionism as a racist doctrine." The men denounced as Zionists include Jerry Rubin, Abby Hoffman, and William Kunstler, people who could best be described as non-Jewish Jews. The Black Panther attacked them because they were Jews by birth, not because they were Zionists. Such thinking goes on. In September 2002, Amiri Baraka, the former Leroy Jones, the official poet laureate of New Jersey, recited his poem "Somebody Blew Up America" at the renowned Dodge Poetry Festival in Waterloo, New Jersey. The poem asks, "Who knew the World Trade Center was going to get bombed? Who told 4,000 Israeli workers at the Twin Towers to stay home that day? Why did Sharon stay away?" Baraka, who in earlier years wrote verses calling for dagger poems in the slimy bellies of their owner Jews, has long claimed that he no longer is anti-Semitic, only opposed to Zionism and to Israel's right to exist. But in spreading the Islamist libel that Jews and Israel had advanced knowledge, which it withheld, of the 9/11 attacks, Baraka writes of 4,000 Israeli workers who were warned to stay away from the World Trade Center that day. But of course, 4,000 Israelis never worked at the World Trade Center. 4,000 or more Jews did, and about 400 of them died. In line with other anti-Zionist antisemites, Baraka speaks of Israel, Jews, and Zionists as indistinguishable. In Italy in 2002, the liberal daily La Stampa, in a cartoon supposedly directed against Israel, but actually intended to arouse hatred against all Jews, harked back to the most damaging canard of Christian antisemitism, deicide. The cartoon showed the infant Jesus looking up from his manger at an Israeli tank and pleading, "Don't tell me they want to kill me again." In England, at about the same time, A.N. Wilson, the highly regarded British novelist and biographer, accused the Israeli army of poisoning the water supplies on the West Bank, a lie that obviously intended to put people in mind of the medieval libel that Jews caused the Black Death by poisoning the wells of Europe. In the Arab world, anti-Zionists have long adopted the calumnies of antisemitism and now spread them under the guise of anti-Zionism. The late president of Egypt and the then leading political figure in the Arab world, Gamal Abdel Nasser, repeatedly cited the protocols of the Elders of Zion to document his charge that 300 Zionists rule the world. Mohammed Baghdadi, the co-writer of a 41-episode Egyptian television series based on the protocols of the Elders of Zion, insisted that the series respected Judaism as a religion. "We only criticize the Zionists," he told a New York Times reporter, December 26, 2002. Among those depicted in the series as a villain is a Jew in a black hat with side curls and a long beard. Since ultra-Orthodox Jews have overwhelmingly been non-Zionists, clearly it was the intention of the series to depict all Jews as evil and as enemies. In early 2000, Al Jadida, the Palestinian Authority's official newspaper, ran a cartoon depicting an old man labeled the 20th century and a young man the 21st century. Between them stands a dwarf wearing a Jewish skullcap and a Star of David. He is labeled the disease of the century. Moral leaders of various faiths have repeatedly warned that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism in practice. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., upon hearing a black student at Harvard launch a tirade against Zionists, said, "When people criticize Zionists, they mean Jews. You're talking anti-Semitism." In a similar vein, the president of the United Church of Christ, Dr. Robert Moss, commented on the anti-Zionist resolution passed by the UN General Assembly in 1975. "We should not be deceived by the use of the term Zionism. The sponsors of this resolution mean by it Jews and Judaism, as well as the State of Israel." The UN delegate from Costa Rica noted that the resolution was an invitation to genocide against the Jewish people. Whether the destruction of the Jewish national movement and the Jewish state, a holocaust of the 6 million Jews of Israel, and the subsequent abandonment of world Jewry to the goodwill of the world with no refuge of its own, are carried out in the name of anti-Zionism or anti-Semitism, is quite irrelevant to Jews. That the people who want to do these things now call themselves anti-Zionists instead of anti-Semites is an interesting historical fact. There may be some differences in what aspects of Jewish life anti-Zionists and anti-Semites hate, but these differences are of interest only to historians. For Jews, the consequences are identical.